pour ça que le jeu il aurait été beaucoup plus simple à faire sur Steam en fait. What? Ok. Bon bah j'attends de recevoir des commentaires pour commencer à parler. Déplacer le curseur. L'heure qui s'affiche maintenant, c'est la bonne heure. Bah non, parce que tu n'es rien. Quelle heure est-il de toute façon? Non. Y a-t-il des choses que vous ne m'avez pas vous-même? Oui. Aidez-moi? Oui. Reviendrez-vous me voir? Oui. Ah. Ah ouais, que 2 minutes.
This is the story.
Ok.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Yes, truly a room worth admiring, but eager to get
Attendez,
back to
mais ça n'a pas
business,
été mis sur le
Stanley
serveur
took the
Discord.
first open door on his left.
Non, pas comme ça. Hop.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you forgot. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove
Et
that I'm
le dernier trophée est juste là.
Now listen carefully. And there it is. The last Stiggly Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for freaking
Tiens, attends, le dernier stream, il a duré combien de temps? C'est tout con, mais il a duré combien de temps le dernier stream? Enfin, l'autre partie. Ah ouais, 1h36, quand même. Ouais, du coup...
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly.
Okay.
Stanley walked... Oh, thank God, you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
Ah, donc peu importe l'endroit, ça sera ouvert. D'accord.
What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful.
Bon, ok, on va faire la fin rapidement.
No, wait. Where are you going? Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. You'll lose all of
Avril.
this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please, Stanley. No! Oh, no. No, what are you doing, Stanley?
De toute façon, si on veut faire une fin, là, on n'a pas le choix de la faire.
I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this? Stanley, let's go back to the other room. My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You were literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly? Maybe you're just getting a kick out of it.
Ça fait mal au cœur. Ça brise le cœur pour lui, c'est affreux.
But I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours. Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
Bon. Voilà, on a fait une nouvelle fin. À part si on l'avait fait dans le tout premier stream, mais bon. Pouf. Ah. Et maintenant... Troll.
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines, those figures. I haven't stopped thinking about
attendez, je reviens, il y a mon chat qui pleure.
Isn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
Petit ingrat de merde. Moi je t'accepte dans ma chambre et tout, et toi tu me lâches, espèce de bâtard. Bref, oui, faut retourner là-bas. Et voilà, tu rechiales en plus, mais t'es vraiment une racleur de merde, monsieur Frisk. Tiens, attends, moi je sais qu'il faut aller en bas, mais il se passe quoi si on va là? Que dalle, yes.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
C'est marrant.
And here was the second Stanley. You found this one all on your own, just by poking around in the boss's bathroom. You did that,
C'est votre
Stanley.
victoire.
I'll be honest. Back then I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways.
Bah oui, miaou le Frisk.
Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini stand?
J'ai été là en premier, je crois. Je crois qu'en premier, j'ai été là. Je m'en rappelle plus.
No, no, no. The warehouse
Merde,
was
c'est
the
la
fourth
quatrième.
place you found a fig Anley, not the third. Well, I guess perhaps I shouldn't be surprised. Memories like these are so precious and so cherished that they all just sort of blend together, don't they? You know what? If the warehouse feels like the third place you found a collectible, then who am I to go making judgments?
Oh,
Let's see. What came next?
pourquoi ça
yes,
parle
we found a
pas?
Figley in this pink room. Oh, well, I can't
Hop.
actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened. This was the fifth mini stand, and this one was really something special. It was under the stairs. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video
Ah ouais,
to
carrément,
commemorate
on
the
est...
occasion.
Il y a 0 personne, mais il y a eu un message. Oh. By the narrator. What that's down there. Bah vous descendez là. Et c'est le 5e mini-stan. Yeah! T'inquiète, je suis ici. Ah bah... Alors, merci d'avoir regardé. Crédit le narrateur, Stanley. Copyright narrateur.
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8
Ah,
minutes I wouldn't have
j'en ai
spent
lu.
on anything else.
Ah, j'en doute pas que t'as passé du temps sur cette vidéo. Non mais putain de merde, la qualité c'est encore pire que les vidéos YouTube qui sont sorties en 2006. Non, quoique c'est au même niveau finalement.
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here by the red and blue doors. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind.
Ah, c'est sûr que c'est vivace, sachant que c'est le plus récent. On l'a fait il y a 5 minutes.
Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like.
Pourquoi tu pleures mon chat? Oh, t'es rond.
And then there was no more. Because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone.
Oh.
No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
Pas con.
Okay, yes, the room with the red and blue doors. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going, I want more. And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched? Yes.
C'est complètement con. Mais... Ah non, les jeux indépendants que j'ai fait sur la chaîne, c'est littéralement les meilleurs let's play que j'ai pu faire à mes yeux. Hein.
These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have muted the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
Ah là là, qu'est-ce que c'est marrant.
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I
Le second Figley.
The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it. The very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figurines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this? Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then. But time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now.
Ah bah purée, t'adores ça au bout de 2 jours.
I want more memories.
Ok.
Oh yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one.
Bon bah allez, on va à gauche. Bah de toute façon, ça change rien. Maintenant.
And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office?
Ouais, il y avait une cinématique.
I can remember.
What the fuck?
Yes, I'm remembering something now.
Oh, c'est la cinématique. Ils l'ont vraiment remis.
That was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy, and I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I
Oh, le pauvre petit chat, il pleure.
I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes.
Allez, vite, faut qu'on finisse le jeu.
I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore.
Oh.
Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling the story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Oui. Logiquement, là, ça y est, on a terminé. Mais c'est pas encore la fin du jeu à 100%. Oui, je sais, monsieur chat. Par contre, il y a un trophée, il s'appelle 8... Genre, il y a... Je ne sais pas qu'est-ce qu'il signifie. Ah, mais je peux jouer là, en fait. D'accord.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ok.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a
Ah, le
staircase,
succès, lui.
Stanley walked
Ouais, voilà,
upstairs
lui.
to his boss's
Je
office.
sais pas qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire. Le succès, c'est horrible.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 284. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music. Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Voilà. Parce qu'il y a un trophée où on doit finir le jeu en 4 minutes 22. On va tenter. On va tenter, là je sais pas, j'ai pas mis de chronomètre malheureusement, mais on va tenter. Là je pense qu'on a été assez rapide pour l'instant. Voilà. Oula merde. Allez, faut que je sois prêt. D'ailleurs, Ratzel, si tu sais comment on fait pour avoir le succès avec tous les 8, tu peux me dire ce que c'est s'il te plaît? Comme ça moi je le fais en... Bah je le fais en stream. Parce que honnêtement je vois pas comment le faire celui-là. Hein. C'est sûrement le seul succès que je vois pas comment faire. Tu l'as pas déjà? Non, 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 je l'ai pas. Je l'ai pas. C'est sûrement le... C'est peut-être l'un des seuls trucs que je n'aurais pas parce que c'est très très compliqué. Merde, faut que je regarde sur internet alors.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen. And Stanley, one of
Ah, j'avoue que c'est pas impossible. Bah je le tenterai après.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time?
J'avoue que je vais le tenter après là, le code. On va voir. Et si ça fonctionne pas avec ce que tu as dit, c'est vraiment bizarre honnêtement. Là je verrai pas comment on peut faire.
He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable.
Hello, Gothic 5. Salut. Pourquoi j'ai l'impression qu'il est anglais?
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in,
faudrait que je rajoute FR à la fin des titres de mes streams ou de mes vidéos YouTube. Ok, est-ce que j'ai le trophée? Pas du tout. Après, il faut attendre un peu, je pense, pour le recevoir.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty.
Okay.
Was it over?
Oui.
Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as
je vais regarder sur Google les succès sur Stanley.
reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Allez.
Stanley felt the cool breeze.
C'est chier, j'ai pas eu le trophée.
The feeling of liberation. The immense possibility of the
Bon, attends, est-ce qu'il y a un guide? Ouais, bah non, du coup, il y en a pas.
Right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Bref, retour au menu. parce que... Merde, non. Ah. Attends, mais le trophée, il a plusieurs 8. Ah non, en plus, j'ai même pas le truc d'épilogue. D'accord. Ah, peut-être que je me suis fail quelque part. Merde. Comment voir l'épilogue?
This is the story of a man named...
Ta gueule.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Juste ultra deluxe. Comment? Oh putain, non.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Non, attends, faut juste que je réfléchisse 2 secondes. Déjà, bah au pire on va essayer de faire pour le 8. On va tenter.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance
Je crois pas l'avoir fait
section,
celui-là,
straight
j'ai un
ahead to
doute.
the opposite door, and
Je sais
got
pas,
back
on ira
on
voir
track.
après.
Yet there was not a single person here either.
En fait c'est chiant, faut attendre
Feeling
plusieurs
really
jours là, le temps qu'on ait le
disbelieving,
guide.
Stanley decided to
C'est
go
affreux.
up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Okay, I think we all know the drill by now. Blah, blah, blah. Dark secrets, the keypad. Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh, hey, look, it's a new passageway. Quelle surprise.
Ok, je vais spammer le 8.
8.
Oh, trophée obtenu, bah le 8. Du coup je les ai eu les 8. Yes. Bon, juste, qu'est-ce qu'il y a d'autre comme trophée obtenable? Attendez, je regarde juste sur l'appli PlayStation. Alors, blablabla, PlayStation. Moi, je sais aussi de mon côté en privé comment faire. Hein. Ça, c'est une bonne chose. Ok, bref. C'était ça. Ouais, ouais, fallait vraiment faire ça. T'entends un 8 et après, bah voilà.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Attends, le truc pour la salle des souvenirs, c'est comment déjà? Je crois que je peux plus. Je fais comment pour la salle des souvenirs déjà? Je crois que je suis obligé de faire ça si je veux l'épilogue. Attendez, je retourne au menu. J'ai fait comment là dans l'autre stream? Attendez 2 secondes, je regarde juste comment j'ai pu faire. Ah, attendez. Ok. Ah oui, c'est comme ça. D'accord. C'était ça, putain, j'ai dit ça au pif en plus. Bah, si, t'as eu raison. Ok.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two...
Non, en fait, je crois vraiment qu'il faut... Si je veux avoir l'épilogue, il va falloir que je fasse effacer les données de sauvegarde. Votre progression dans le jeu sera supprimée et vous reviendra à l'installation de départ. Allez, parce qu'il me faut l'épilogue. Il me le faut. Là, je crois que je ne peux plus le faire vu que j'ai plus le new contenu. Parce que pour avoir l'épilogue, il faut aller dans le truc du new contenu et du coup, tout... comment dire, bah, il faut aller tout simplement dans... faut tout se retaper quoi. Faut se retaper tous les trucs qu'il y a dans le new contenu. Oui, déjà joué à Stanley Parable. Comme ça au moins le new contenu on l'aura plus rapidement. Entre l'heure actuelle 1h. Voilà, midi 59. Oui. Comme ça en plus avec de la chance on l'aura peut-être plus rapidement. Voilà, ça on va le faire. Voilà. Et voilà, on est dans le jeu de base. Parfait. Là on a littéralement fait plus ou moins toutes les fins. Maintenant faut qu'on retrouve le new contenu, comme ça on est tranquille. C'est à quoi je me fail?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Merde.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Il y a une fin, je vais profiter à la faire du coup.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Après tout.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Parce que je sais plus ce qu'on a ici. Dans la première version 1, tout à l'heure on était dans Stanley Parable 2. Là on est dans le 1. Nuance.
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go from here it's left.
Ah, le bâtard.
Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
Désolé pour ceux qui regardent la rediff, hein, on va devoir se retaper énormément de choses. Comme pour ceux qui sont sur le live avec moi actuellement.
Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way. No, this isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay.
Voilà, on recommence. C'est pas grave. RIP. Ah bah ouais, là. Tant qu'on n'a pas le new contenu, là, on va être obligé de tous retaper. Hein. Faut très rapidement. Et le pire, c'est que va falloir qu'on se retape aussi le délire des comment dire. On va devoir se retaper le délire avec les avec les figurines. Avec les figurines. On va devoir se retaper le délire avec les figurines, ce qui va être affreux. Ah bah ouais, là on l'a clairement dans le cul. contre le son il est trop fort. Voilà. C'est trop fort, c'est chiant. Ah bah ouais, là ça fait chier. Franchement, s'il y a quelqu'un qui serait d'accord de faire un montage du stream et de me l'envoyer un peu plus tard, ou tout simplement pour la rediff, vous enlevez tous les passages chiants qu'on s'est retapés, merci. Je laisserai ce stream là en rediff, comme ça si quelqu'un veut se taper la rediff au complet avec tous les fails, il le fait, mais voilà, pour ceux qui veulent regarder juste l'essentiel, voilà, ça sera bien aussi.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Non, c'est vrai qu'il faut pas se défendre. Pourquoi tu as deux pouces? Aujourd'hui, tu as deux pouces.
Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Pourtant, dans l'autre stream, il y en avait 24.
This room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Merci. Aujourd'hui, tu as 2 pouces de ma part sur tes lives. Quoi? J'ai pas trop compris, mais bon, pas grave. Oula, nouveauté. Et pourtant, on n'est pas du tout avec le truc.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ah bah du coup on n'a pas pu pour l'autre porte. De toute façon elle n'était pas ouverte.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping he might, coming to a staircase, Stanley walked up.
Non, ça va être trop long et trop chiant. Je préfère pas. Au pire, si je galère vraiment à la faire, la fin, à trouver l'épilogue, tant pis, non?
But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision?
S'il le faut, j'arrêterai directement le stream et puis tant pis, on fera jamais l'épilogue ou alors je le ferai de mon côté en vidéo, mais bon.
This couldn't go any way except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes.
Voilà.
His co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Oula.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Putain.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize
putain, c'est à faute de
investing
devoir
your
tous
trust in
retaper là.
someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this
On va essayer de le
time.
faire en mode rapide, hein.
There's
On va
someone
essayer
you've
de
been
faire une sorte de
neglecting,
speedrun.
Stanley. Someone you've forgotten. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what. Let me take a stab in the dark at a new design, and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here.
Allez, pour lui faire fermer sa gueule.
I mean, I can understand if you had reservations, you saw ways the game could be improved to more fully express itself mechanically and artistically, but a 1? That's not even helpful. What am I supposed to do with that? But I guess it isn't my place to judge. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
Voilà, rien à foutre.
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel
On va mettre que
motivated
du
to
1
keep
pour
walking
voir.
through doors? Again, honest answers, please.
Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up.
Ok, purée. Je pensais pas que cette deuxième partie allait durer aussi longtemps, mais à
In
cause
this
de tout
game,
bug
the
de
baby
merde.
crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches
Allez,
the
brûle,
fire,
bâtard.
you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience. You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out, I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game?
just to ease the pain. Let's see. What do we have here? Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
Alors on va mettre dans Firewatch. Je crois que j'ai un nouveau commentaire sur le live alors que pas du tout, c'est horrible.
Aha! Fascinating. What do you think this game is about, Stanley? What's our backstory? What is our motivation? Well, it seems obvious to me that you are meant to play as a creepy man spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower, perhaps for some sort of twisted, erotic purpose. Yes, that must be it. What a fascinating venture into the experience of total mental depravity. So far, I love everything about this game, Stanley. And it seems there's even more. Come, let's venture outward and see what else is out there. Oh no. No, it can't be. It is. It's an open world game. Good God, quickly block it off. Oh, thank goodness, Stanley. What a close call. I really wandered off into that thing. That big, open, just wandering around. No right or wrong directions. No path to follow. You can just go in any... Oh, thank heavens we avoided it. We're out of the woods now, Stanley. Okay, I'm going to get us out of here. Let's find another game. Preferably something with walls. Something with nice, big, insurmountable walls. Okay, I think this will be just the thing.
Bienvenue dans le monde de Rocket League, motherfucker.
Wonderful. See, this is exactly what I had in mind. Just a nice big box for you to run around in. There isn't any possibility that you could get lost here. Now this is game design. Stanley, if you manage to get lost in this game, I will be phenomenally impressed. Okay, so what exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun. We shall run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must. Okay, Stanley, here's the ball. Have fun. Are you doing it? Hold on. What are you doing?
Oui, on est dans le monde de Rocket League.
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that. Stanley, come.
Plus tard, FNAF Security Breach. Oula, non, il est pas prêt d'être fait en let's play, lui. Wow. Peut-être il arrivera jamais.
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end to make sense out of the chaos and
Je
the
parle
fear
dans
and
le
the
jeu.
confusion.
Ah.
That's who I am.
Non, il n'y aura
That
pas
is
de
what I
référence à
mean
FNAF
to this
Security
world.
Breach. Surtout que le jeu,
Yes, I'll be
surtout
back
que lui, il est
in
sorti
another
mercredi,
way.
Stanley Parable, et
Once
FNAF
this
9
ends,
est
after it all
sorti
comes to a
en
close,
décembre.
then I'll be back.
Du coup, bon.
The end will be here soon. Very soon. I can wait.
Ouais, carrément 50 minutes, putain.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Putain, mais j'ai mis oui comme quoi j'avais joué à Stanley Parable.
Stanley came to a set of two open doors. He entered the door on his left.
Vous êtes relous les mecs.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music. Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Oh non, putain, c'est vrai, il y avait une fin avec le truc qu'on n'avait pas fait. Non, ça se peut, c'était la seule fin à faire pour gagner. Oh non, putain.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a
On aurait
bit
pu être à
peculiar.
l'épilogue dès
It
maintenant,
was a
mais non,
stirring of
putain.
emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Bah ouais, voilà, avec le saut, on n'a pas été à
Stanley walked
gauche.
straight ahead through the large door that
On n'a pas
read
été là avec le
Mind
saut.
Control Facility.
Bah, tu sais quoi, je vais y aller ici. Voilà, comme ça, quitte à
Although
crever.
this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Bah oui, avec le saut, je l'ai pas fait cette fin, du coup, putain de merde. Et le pire, c'est qu'on peut même pas revenir à notre vieille sauvegarde qui a été supprimée. Oh. Oh putain, ce stream il va durer 4 à 5 heures, ça va être affreux.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched
On a
closer
déjà
and
combien de temps
closer
de
to his
stream là?
demise,
Ouais,
he
plus ou moins
reflected
une
that
heure.
his life had been
Oh,
of
ça va
no
être trop bien,
consequence
4 heures de
whatsoever.
stream. Oh,
Stanley can't see the
absolument
bigger
aucune envie de me
He
trancher
doesn't
les
know the
veines.
real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world
J'avais oublié ça.
is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator.
Ah bah si, j'ai mis comme quoi c'était la fin, je vais le finir aujourd'hui, comme ça au moins après je suis tranquille. Surtout que j'ai envie de démarrer Kingdom Hearts la semaine prochaine, du coup raison de plus de le finir aujourd'hui, parce que samedi, dimanche, je pourrais pas stream. Du coup si je dois finir le jeu, c'est aujourd'hui, tout simplement.
What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
On va même pas chercher à lire parce qu'on l'a déjà fait dans un ancien stream. Donc on va même pas chercher à lire ce qui a été mis, même si on n'a pas tout lu, hein, mais bon, on va pas se faire chier.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Turn off your PlayStation. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time...
Ok, j'ai juste envie de recommencer pour voir, parce que qui sait, peut-être qu'on va vraiment avoir un truc, hein. Bon, après, elle a dit éteindre la PlayStation. J'ai pas trop envie de recouper le stream une deuxième fois. Déjà que l'autre fois, c'était juste parce que le jeu avait commencé à cracher exprès. Ce qui est littéralement l'un des pires trucs possibles. Quand c'est fait exprès que ça crache, c'est sûrement l'un des plus gros coups de pute qu'on peut te faire.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Putain, enfin, il y a le nouveau contenu.
New content?
Ah bah, putain, fallait la... Ah, fallait attendre là, hein.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it. I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if them... Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley. All right, let's see. It's the jump circle. Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right? Goodness. Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting
T'énerve
new
pas, bah
content?
si, ça m'emmerde de devoir me retaper tous ces dialogues de merde. Parce qu'en plus on peut pas les passer. Du coup ça fait chier de devoir se retaper tous les dialogues sans pouvoir les passer. En soi je peux lui faire fermer sa gueule si je veux, hein. Mais quand même c'est relou. Parce que dans tous les cas t'auras le même délire. Genre tu seras obligé de tout retaper même si tu n'as plus sa voix.
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's trophies, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test trophy, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me.
Après, quand on sera dans Stanley Parable 2, le truc que je vais essayer... Attendez 2 secondes. Au pire, je vais vraiment couper. Parce que... il parle trop fort. Le truc que je vais essayer de faire, c'est... Quand on sera dans le truc de Stanley Parable 2, j'ai quand même essayé de faire la fin que je n'ai pas réussi, que j'avais oublié de faire. Comme ça au moins... Ouais, du coup, Stanley Parable 2, ça va être dans une vingtaine, trentaine de minutes qu'on va le faire. Je vais essayer de faire la fin. Ensuite, quand cette fin-là, je l'aurai fait, je retournerai dans le menu. Et si au menu, ça me parle de l'épilogue, alors là, j'aurai tout gagné. Parce que putain... Ah ouais, mais non, ça supprimait toutes les anciennes sauvegardes. Merde. Bon, on va peut-être un peu remettre son quand même. Parce que sinon, après, on n'entend rien et c'est tout vide. Voilà, 90, c'est bien. Je vais devoir me retaper toutes les figurines pour m'avancer encore plus. Enfin, pour terminer le jeu. Du coup, c'est affreux.
Cheap and unsatisfying the new ultra deluxe content turned out to be. Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special.
Et là, ça va être encore plus long. Du coup, là, quand on sera au bouton de skip pour le narrateur, on va faire que de passer. J'en ai rien à foutre de ce qu'il dit. On a vu ce qu'il a dit au premier épisode. Là, on va faire que de skipper. Pour rien à perdre. Là, c'est littéralement speedrun ce qu'on va faire. Là, on perd pas de temps. On va être très rapide.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the memory zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable... And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism. 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote...
Là, ça aurait été bien, ça m'aurait pu skip. Mais bon.
Games end up less than any form of art. Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created. Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk, Malcolm. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Putain.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. All they had to do was transport it in pristine condition along to the PlayStation. Boom, done. And they couldn't even do that. Couldn't resist the urge to go meddling. These were simpler times, Stanley. What I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no, oh God, no, Stanley. It's a collection of reviews from Pressurized Gas, the extremely popular online storefront for computer games. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
Honnêtement, je pense que s'il y aurait personne pour regarder le stream avec moi, je l'aurais abandonné le stream. Et le let's play, bah, il aurait été fini. Très clairement. Là, pour le coup, je suis content qu'il y ait au moins une personne qui regarde. Parce que putain...
I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them. Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley, I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy, honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. I always, well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did, but maybe it wasn't. Oh, dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks are my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as... What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes.
Ou là on va spammer le bouton passé. Le bouton passé on va le spammer, j'en ai rien à foutre. Si vous voulez voir ce que le narrateur dit, bah regardez le premier épisode, tout simplement.
Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have. And here it is.
Voilà, ta gueule. On lui laisse pas le temps, j'en ai rien à foutre.
Frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of... Well, there's sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a faultless display of self-absorption... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45...
Ta gueule.
Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're... Oh, Stanley, look back.
Putain, c'est long.
I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks.
Non, ça fait quelques secondes. Ah non.
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about our...
Ta gueule. Il n'est plus là.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed.
En plus, ça prend son temps à se mettre à la normale, c'est horrible. Ouh, c'est long. Y a pas des gens qui peuvent parler sur le stream là, comme ça au moins ça nous fait passer le temps. Parce que là ça va être très long et très relou, alors bon, c'est peut-être mieux qu'on parle. Parce que moi j'ai rien à dire là. Merde. Et j'ai pas trop envie que le stream soit complètement vide. Enfin en mode il y a que le son du jeu. Oui. Ah, il y a une deuxième personne. Ah, on est trois. Depuis quand? Bon, bah tant mieux, mais... Putain, il était temps. Bah, il y a toi et moi déjà, oui. C'est déjà une bonne chose à savoir. Ouh, putain, enfin. Allez, maintenant, on va devoir faire Stanley Parable 2. Ouh, ça va être trop lourd. Yes, j'ai déjà une envie de me...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Oh 2 secondes, ouais, bon bah...
Oh, good. You noticed my sign.
Oh,
Yes, I have
classe.
something very exciting
Bordel.
to show you.
Trop classe, Angel Dust. Putain de merde. Donc il ressemble à ça maintenant, Angel Dust. Ok, d'accord. Bah, il a pas eu énormément de changements, malheureusement, ça fait un peu chier ça. Putain, vous êtes relous les mecs. Ok. C'est en rapport avec une série que je surkiffe, qui est sur YouTube d'ailleurs. La série s'appelle Has-Been Hotel. En 2019, on a eu le pilote. Il y a même une VF qui a été faite en 2020. Et du coup, depuis 2019, les gens, y compris moi, on attend l'épisode, on attend la suite, on attend la vraie série parce qu'on a eu que le pilote. On attendait la suite. Et bah du coup en février on a eu l'annonce de Charlie, genre son nouveau design. En avril, en mars on a eu Alastor et aujourd'hui je pense que la prochaine ça serait Vaggy ou Husk, parce que pourquoi pas. Déjà Vaggy je pensais que c'était la première qu'on allait avoir avec Charlie, mais ouais.
But let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features. A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try.
Le
Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more
aussi, un truc que je voulais montrer au début du stream, enfin de l'autre stream du coup. Ok. Il y a des chances que la fin, enfin l'épilogue, je le fasse du coup. Il y a des chances que l'épilogue, je le fasse, comment dire, hors stream, ou qu'éventuellement je ferai un autre stream un peu plus tard. Attends, il y a un truc que je voulais faire, parce que je l'ai découvert avec Larry, hier, même avant-hier je crois, et c'est un truc en rapport avec ça.
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling.
Voilà.
You can fall until the end of time if you
on va se laisser. Malgré qu'il va nous dire de continuer, on va se laisser. On va se laisser, il y aura quelque chose.
Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward.
On va se laisser tomber.
Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things. Okay, Stanley, I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature.
Boom.
It's more of a... Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely? I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem. Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why can't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite?
Et que c'est pas un trou sans fond.
Go ahead and press the teleport button to walk up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're...
Great! Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
Allez, il y a un petit truc que je vais faire qui devrait logiquement fonctionner avec l'épilogue. Du coup, il y a un autre endroit où on va y aller et après on va pouvoir s'arrêter et aller dans Stanley Parable 2. Enfin, démarrer Stanley Parable 2. Trophée.
Now, here's Here's something special. You remember that broken test trophy that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the trophy. Yes. Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the trophy is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel. To at last, gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen. What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
Le fait qu'on se
Calling
barre.
it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe.
D'ailleurs, il a déjà le truc de Stanley.
Oh goodness, Stanley, this is fairly awkward.
Ouais.
I hate to do this, but before you leave, you really should go to the collectibles exhibit. You see, there is a surprise I was going to spring on you later.
Je pensais qu'on aurait pu, mais non. Faut vraiment aller voir les objets collectionnés, d'accord. Je pensais qu'on aurait pu le passer. C'est pas grave. Je pensais qu'on aurait pu le passer. Je me suis fail. Maintenant, je sais qu'on est obligé de le faire. Par contre, on a toujours le truc du saut et Property of Stanley. Hein. Alors qu'on est censé... Ce qui est assez bizarre, parce qu'à la base, on est quand même censé avoir aucune sauvegarde de notre ancienne partie. Du coup, le fait qu'on ait ça, c'est assez bizarre. Franchement, ouais, c'est un peu bizarre. Mais tant mieux. Parce que si ça veut dire que toutes les autres fins qu'on avait eues comptent, on a tout gagné là. Ouais, par contre, on va devoir en trouver une tonne. Allez, ça y est, on peut enfin se barrer.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
Me dis pas que je dois aller faire autre chose, sinon je vais te tuer. Ouais. Ouh, t'as eu de la chance, petit enculé.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear
Tu as eu de la chance, mon pote.
these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work.
Ok, j'arrête.
There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's
Là, va falloir qu'on fasse les morts très rapidement. Et on vient de perdre un abonné, d'accord. Yes, envie de mourir.
Okay. Are you ready?
1h22.
Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2. Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on, let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2. Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, this is the Stanley Parable 2.
Oh putain, c'est relou. Si on pouvait passer ce qu'il était en train de dire, ça aurait été magnifique.
Take a look.
Ah putain, c'est relou par contre le fait d'avoir perdu un abonné. C'est relou, ça fait chier. Faites de la pub. Beaucoup de pub. Faites-en. Please. Voilà.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Maintenant, on va aller faire la fin que je n'ai pas fait avec le seau. On va aller faire la fin avec le seau. Et...
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the
Et bah voilà.
meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the
Après, on va retourner au menu. Si ça fonctionne, tant mieux. Si ça fonctionne pas, tant pis.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Attends, du coup, avec le seau, j'ai oublié, ça donne peut-être un nouvel endroit, mais j'ai oublié, avec le seau, ça nous ramène où? Ça se peut, c'est l'endroit où on dit, est-ce que ça c'est un seau et tout? C'est possible, hein. J'espère pas que ça sera cet endroit-là.
Oh, good Stanley, I'm glad you found your way here. I knew
Non, c'est cet endroit-là. Bon, on recommence. Putain, merde, c'est où l'endroit où on se fait buter déjà? Où on se fait aplatir? Ah oui, c'est vrai, faut faire la route normale. Faut faire la route basique. Je sais pas pourquoi à chaque fois je l'oublie alors que c'est sûrement le truc le plus con possible, hein. Mais ouais, là je viens de m'en rappeler. C'est la route, on fait la route basique, allez.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had
La fin n'est jamais la fin.
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where
Attends, il va dire quoi?
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet.
Ça nous dit qu'il veut le seau. Avant, quand il nous disait comme quoi il voulait le seau, c'est parce qu'on n'avait pas le prix pour le propriété of Stanley et l'image de seau. On n'avait pas ça, et là il nous disait ça. Le fait que maintenant il nous le dit, c'est assez bizarre, honnêtement. C'est très bizarre. Attendez. Hop. On va en prendre une tonne là. Oh.
You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Allez, on remonte. Parce que tant qu'on n'a pas passé la porte, la fin ne compte pas. C'est comme quand on est là-haut. Tant qu'on n'a pas passé la porte du boss, la fin ne compte pas.
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands?
Oh, on va voir le quatrième dans pas longtemps d'ailleurs. On va voir le quatrième dans pas longtemps. Juste une question de temps et on aura. Juste une question de minutes là et on l'a le dernier. Enfin le quatrième. C'est vrai, je viens de m'en rappeler. Putain, en plus il y a des streams là qui sont en train d'arriver. D'accord, on est 4, merci. Allez, coup de chance. Je me demande qui sont la troisième et quatrième personne du live. Hop.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between
Le cinquième, je m'en rappelle où il est, mais le sixième, j'ai un doute. Si, même le sixième, c'est bon. Je sais, ils sont les deux derniers. C'est bon, c'est parfait. D'ailleurs, vous savez que pour le cinquième et le sixième, on peut les faire... C'est le même chemin, mais on peut les faire en 2 secondes si on veut, hein, vraiment. Ça sera en 2 secondes si on est assez rapide. Enfin, 2 secondes, expression, mais bon, tu comprends. T'es intelligent, t'es abonné à ma chaîne, c'est pour ça que t'es intelligent et pas con. Kingdom Hearts 4 a lieu 1 an après Kingdom Hearts 3. D'accord. Oh, intéressant. Bon bah quand on va faire Kingdom Hearts 3, on saura que quand on terminera le jeu, et ben il y aura qu'un an d'écart avec le 4. C'est de combien c'est intéressant à savoir.
Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind
Voilà.
Control
Vous avez jamais vu ce que c'est avec le show, à part si vous avez vu d'autres youtubeurs ou autres streamers. Mais voilà. Il y a une très grosse différence avec quand on le fait que avec Stanley. Ah, je suis passé tout seul sur le stream, trop cool.
Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Trop bien, je suis passé à être tout seul sur le stream. Yay. Trop bien. Ouh. Pour la peine, je meurs. Aïe.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
No.
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
Le saut. Je vous laisse mettre pause parce que moi faut que je termine le stream le plus vite possible.
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life? No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
Tiens là mon seau.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together,
Oh,
you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Ah, dégueulasse. Bon. Ah non, c'est vrai qu'il y a aussi une autre fin qu'on n'a pas fait. Du coup, il faut aller à l'endroit de base. Mais on va quand même prendre à la place les derniers trucs. Les derniers trucs de
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself. The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Non, putain, non, je l'ai pas eu. Putain de merde. Bon, au moins cette fin, elle est déjà faite, on va dire. C'est mieux que rien. Bon, allez, ta gueule. Vas-y, cette fin, elle est faite, au moins. Ça, c'est réglé. Putain, je voulais tellement pas la faire comme ça. Non. J'avais oublié qu'il faut appuyer sur croix, c'est affreux. Je me sens con. Comme d'hab, mais bon.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting. Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one. And then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it.
What?
We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them. And now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler and Marines. None of us can.
Ok. Pourquoi pas. Est-ce qu'on peut prendre d'autres cassettes en vrai? Bon.
Okay, this is day number 295. Take number. I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make
Bon, je reviens, je vais aux
sense.
toilettes.
There's no
Désolé pour l'attente que vous aurez pour la
explanation
prochaine
for
fois.
it. Still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so. What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get... What's that? Who's there?
Ok, je suis de retour, désolé. Je voulais aller aux toilettes, en plus ça a sonné chez moi. Oui, du coup. Est-ce que j'ai l'épilogue maintenant? Ou alors j'ai encore une fin à faire? Je sais qu'il me reste un petit truc à faire, mais est-ce que ça va être compté? Oui. Ok, je vais me faire enculer. Ouf, qu'est-ce que j'ai envie de vivre? Qu'est-ce que j'aime la vie, bordel? Absolument aucune envie de crever ou de faire un putain de génocide. Hein. Après, je sais pas, je tuerais quel pays. Si je le pouvais. Peut-être les Américains. Ah non, 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 c'est trop simple. C'est trop simple de tuer un Américain, ils ont des armes chez eux. Qui sont légales, alors bon. Les buter, c'est la facilité, c'est pas marrant.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled.
Allez, parce que je suppose qu'ils vont pas compter les fins qu'on a fait avant. Alors hop. Allez, voilà, voilà. Hop, hop, hop. Hop.
Yes.
Voilà.
Whispered the bucket into Stanley's ear. We've done it. We've escaped from that dull office and that pesky narrator.
Putain, faut que je charge ma Switch, moi.
Out here in the white void, we are alone. Now, and for the first time, I can reveal to you my true self. The bucket began to tell Stanley of its life and its history, of the countless wars it witnessed, desecrating the land and lives of untold numbers of innocent humans, and the bucket's own complicity therein, of sadness and regret, and the many years it spent dwelling on the actions it might have taken to curb the madness and the decay, if only it had been stronger. Of hope and redemption, and its crusade to uplift the stock of life for the common man, to manifest justice where none existed, and the bittersweet reality of time,
que je n'ai pas encore démarré en let's play, enfin qui n'est pas encore sorti en vidéo, mais bon. En vidéo sur ma chaîne, du moins. On est trois, mais c'est qui les personnes? Oh, c'est pour ça que je me déteste, à chaque fois je suis stressé quand il y a une personne sur mon live.
Perhaps if it had seen its own darkness with a clearer perception. This was way too much for Stanley.
What are you talking about?
He screamed.
You're a bucket!
To this, the bucket furrowed its brow.
No,
said the bucket.
not since the evil wizard Gambhorata first ensnared me in his machinations as payback for the sacred amulet I stole from his treasured vaults. I was young back then and could not conceive the ramifications of... No!
Stanley screamed even louder.
Treasure! So!
You are a bucket! This is so stupid! Why are we even doing this?
As Stanley screamed and screamed and screamed, the bucket revealed its true form, transforming into a mighty beast of untold power, its fangs glistening like...
Stanley, vous avez réussi. Vous nous avez sauvé du sceau. Heureusement que vous avez déjà les 12 emblèmes des sages et que vous connaissiez les incantations pour invoquer leur pouvoir véritable. Sans cela, nous aurions été facilement écrasés par le pouvoir du sceau. Je ne sais pas quoi dire. Vous avez fait preuve d'un tel courage aujourd'hui. Allez, redémarrons le jeu. Et faisons un pacte. Nous ne bondirons plus avec ce sceau, ni avec la magie noire qui a été scellée. Pouf. D'accord, il y a des silencieux sur le live. Oh.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Off on another thrilling adventure together. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest.
Merde, non, c'est vrai, pour la dernière fois, il me faut pas le saut, putain. Chaque fois j'oublie. Tant pis. Bah ouais, je sais où elle est la dernière. Mais il me faut pas le saut. Je peux... Il me faut pas le saut.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, but Stanley guessed the correct code by
par pure chance, bien évidemment. C'est pas parce que Stanley a une bonne mémoire, non mais oh.
Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Loading, 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 low. Putain, je vais dormir tôt moi ce soir. Ouais, non, je ferai cette fin là après.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. Woo! What horrible secret did this place hold? Woo! Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. Woo! The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's frame of mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed
the combien de temps de stream? Oh putain, on part sur les 2 heures. Ah bah putain, on va devoir être rapide pour celle-là. Hein. Là, va falloir faire un énorme speedrun quand on sera en épilogue, sachant que je ne sais même pas à quoi m'attendre dans l'épilogue. Du coup, va falloir que je le speedrun. C'est horrible.
Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his power,
on va faire non et après on va revenir ici pour faire oui. Voilà, au moins vous savez. Là on commence par non et on reviendra ici en faisant oui. Voilà. Comme ça en plus avec de la chance, s'il va s'énerver en disant ah non, il a refait ça, allez on s'en tape, ça nous fera gagner du temps. Du coup voilà. Et en même temps je sais que le non l'a fait et pas le oui.
Was it over?
Ah, du coup, si ça vous donne un peu plus de hype pour voir ce qui va se passer, bah voilà.
Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the Bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The Bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and to... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the Bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the Bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the Bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the Bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the Bucket. No. Stanley can't leave this place, not while he has such a precious Bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the Bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my Bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Allez, ça y est, c'est fini. Yay! Bon. Ah ok, non, c'était une vidéo YouTube. C'était une notif YouTube. Je pensais que c'était pour me dire, ah, t'as un nouvel abonné, MDR. Pas du tout. Dans le doute. Si on a un putain de miracle. En plus, les temps de chargement, ils sont longs. Mais putain, c'est long. Il devrait prévenir quand l'épilogue est disponible, en vrai.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting. Where are we going today? The Bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfect. Stanley clutched the Bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Voilà, maintenant on va le refaire en mettant oui. Et oui, il faut aussi que j'aille chercher le dernier. Je sais. Mais pour aller le chercher, il me faut pas le... Je dois pas prendre le truc là, le seau.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the Bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the Bucket knew all along? Was the Bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Wow. Oh, une deuxième personne, bienvenue. Bienvenue sur ce live qui est complètement chiant. Tellement c'est vide. Donc là, puis sur non, maintenant on va appuyer sur oui. Une troisième personne aussi. Ok, là ça devient bizarre.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the Bucket both wondered to themselves. monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working,
Non, on
all
appuie
of
sur
it
oui
monitored
pour
and
voir ce qui se
commanded
passe.
from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this... But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this?
Le saut sur la
Stanley was
identité.
prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust,
Mon Dieu,
when suddenly
terrible.
an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
Ok, nouvelle fin. Merde, il reste quoi comme fin? Si je me souviens, il y a la fin où on descend. Faut qu'on aille récupérer le dernier truc. Il y a la fin où tout devient un saut. Je sais même pas ce que les appels signifient en fait dans le jeu, c'est affreux. Ça se peut que, vu que c'est rare qu'on a des appels, ça se peut que ça signifie réellement un truc dans le jeu. Mais... je sais pas. Franchement, je sais pas. Faudrait que je regarde dans le wiki. Hein.
A good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket. A bucket
S'il y a un
of
wiki
culture
français,
and distinction.
éventuellement.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the
Mais ça, c'est un
correct
autre
way to the
problème.
meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. A cargo lift. Good, said the bucket. Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked. No, stop. Look there on the wall, you see? There's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless... What if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and isn't a bucket?
Putain!
I suppose that would explain a lot
Tout ça
about
pour un
your behavior
épilogue et
up to
donc
this
pour
point,
enfin
which,
terminer
if
ce jeu.
that's true, well, my goodness.
Yay! J'avoue que la fin du jeu, j'aurais dû le faire un autre jour ou en vidéo. Parce que là, ça devient juste casse-couille. Littéralement.
So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
Je me demande quand même qui est sur le stream, tellement, vu que ça parle pas.
Now
Ah bon.
I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin.
Bon, je sais qu'il faut mettre non, mais je vais mettre oui partout.
Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Allez, on va mettre comme quoi on voit que des sauts, alors que c'est que du faux. Non, je vais peut-être mettre même que des mauvaises réponses.
Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 3. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. This is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a bucket?
Oui.
Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor.
On fait que des mauvaises réponses et il dit rien quand même. Bizarre.
How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the next one. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. This is a bucket. Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
Peu importe la réponse, vous aurez eu cette réponse de sa part.
Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere. Okay.
Yes, je fais que du fail.
There isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something, and therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket? You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was
La
all
réponse
I
ne
ever
comptera
had
pas,
to begin
même
with.
si vous essayez d'être plus
I'm afraid
rapide.
the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go. What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my God, I have no idea. How could... except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets.
On a
Okay?
combien de streams là?
And we'll know
Ok,
that it's all
2h05,
a bucket.
putain.
But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
Ouf, on va essayer de finir ça en moins d'une heure maintenant. Même si je promets pas qu'on va réussir. Même si j'aimerais réussir en moins d'une heure. Merde, il reste quoi? Oh.
The embrace of an old friend. Stanley clutched the bucket
Oui,
tightly
c'est
to
bon.
his chest and
On
emptied
va
the
aller
door
là.
with his left.
On va aller faire ça. C'est vrai, faut qu'on aille prendre le dernier. On le prendra un peu plus tard. En fait, je crois que c'est peut-être la dernière fin, là, hein, ce qu'on aura à
Coming to
faire.
a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked
Peut-être, hein, c'est la
upstairs to the
dernière fin avec
boss's
le saut
office.
qu'on a à faire.
But Stanley
Je sais
just
pas.
couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fined for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked
Bon,
the
ok,
bucket.
c'est bon.
The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. Now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me! The bucket!
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley! Find me!
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
LOL.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Mariella.
Mariella
C'est
woke up
marrant.
a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which the bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.